Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming to the conference. Welcome to the talk. So my name's Ed Thompson. I am CTO and co-founder of Matillion. I'd like to also introduce Laura Malins, who's our VP Product. OK, today I want to talk to you about productivity. I want to talk about productivity of data, working with data, and your productivity teams. At Matillion, I'm going to introduce our data productivity cloud. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about where we are and where we've come from at Matillion. And I'm going to introduce you to our new fully managed software as a service experience. I also want to do a demonstration, which Laura's going to do today, of our data productivity cloud. So data productivity. We've been working with data teams for many, many years. And we've seen some of the problems that those data teams have. And we see three main kind of things that are going on in data teams right now in our industry. First of all, there's the cloud data constraints. We're producing more data than ever. The data itself is more complex than ever. And those data schemas are changing more rapidly as the source products evolve. That's translating into increasing pressure on our data teams. We all know if we've built data teams, it's very hard to hire and retain data teams. And as those data teams build data integration products, the complexity increases, and the pressure on those resources increases. And as organizations are successful with data, that just means that they need more data, and that drives an ever-increasing pressure on our data teams. We've also noticed that some of the practices that are used by those data teams are not optimal for productivity in the long term, and management of those teams in the long term. Particularly when it comes to modern CI/CD pipelines, they're very hard to apply to data. So a lot of the work that we want to do in the data productivity cloud is to enable that way of working, and you'll see that in a minute. So what's in the data productivity cloud? Well, four main things that we enable data teams to do. We enable them to load the data. All of those silos of data, we have hundreds of connectors in our system at Matillion that can bring data into cloud data warehouses. Our bread and butter is data transformation. We love transforming data at Matillion. We love enabling teams to do that without code. We make data transformation really easy to do. You'll see a little bit of that in a minute. We also recognize that building data warehouses and data lakes is not the end of the story for data these days. You also need to take that data and make it useful in the source systems that it came from. Embellish those source systems, make them more useful to the users. That's what our data sync's all about. And finally, our end-to-end orchestration of that data pipeline, making those data pipelines easy to work with, easy to orchestrate, and automated so you build them once and once only. So this is the blueprint for the data productivity cloud. I'm not going to go through every element of this in detail right now, but we have our data sources. That data is coming from those source systems. It's messy. It needs transformation. It needs work. We want to provide all the tools in the data productivity cloud to allow you to do that without code, and ideally without worrying about infrastructure. And our mission is to turn that data into business-ready data that can be used by the business to make decisions, to drive data science models, and to drive your operational analytics. But for today's demo, I'm just going to zoom in slightly on some of the key tenets of the design process around data pipelines. So at the heart of the user story for the data productivity cloud is our designer. And our new cloud-based designer puts version control at the source of everything that it does, at the heart of everything that it does. And that's version control that's based on Git. Because we put version control at the heart of everything we do, That means we can integrate directly with your favorite CI/CD pipelines and build data ops pipelines. That means we can fully automate the build, test, deployment, and scheduling of those data pipelines. So that's how you build your pipelines. But then there's the execution. And we've done some really cool work on the execution of data pipelines as well. We introduced our Matillion-hosted unlimited scale agent that will scale to, it will scale the execution of the data pipeline to handle any kind of intent, any volume of data, any kind of complexity of that data pipeline. Matillion can host that unlimited scale agent for you, or that could go in your own cloud, inside the customer's cloud, giving you full flexibility for all different kinds of data sovereignty models. And of course, as always, Matillion is based on the best data platforms out there: Amazon Redshift, Snowflake, Databricks, Azure Synapse, and of course, Google BigQuery. So that's the Matillion Data Productivity Cloud. It's zero install. It's limitless scale. It's got versioning built in by design. And because it's a full SaaS platform, you can get started in seconds. So to see what it looks like, I'm going to hand over to Laura, who's going to demo the product. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ed. So for today's demo, I'm going to be Laura, a data engineer. And my task is going to be to load some Jira data into Snowflake so I can do some analysis of some tickets data. So we'll get started in Matillion's Pipeline Designer. Immediately, you can see it has a modern, visual, and intuitive user interface. We have some jobs available that have been built here to load and transform my Jira data. And then we have some components available here, once a job is open, to drag into that job. On the canvas here, you can see I have a job that has been partially created. We have 10 Jira components that run in parallel, and it connects to pull ticket data from different Jira accounts into a table that I have created in Snowflake earlier in my job. And now I've loaded this Jira data into Snowflake, what I want to be able to do is transform it. I want to do that to cleanse the data, to filter the data, and then to aggregate the data to get some meaningful insights out of it. And I can do that with the transformation job I've already got created, and I can bring it onto my job using the transform component down here. I can simply select it, drag it and drop it down into the canvas there, and connect it up to say run immediately after my job run has been completed, my load has been completed. And now I can click into the transform component, and I can show you how easy it is to configure in a low-code environment. In the properties, I can just select in the drop-down, and I can choose this particular job to run as part of the transformation. And once that properties of the component has been configured, the border on the component turns green, which tells us the component has been successfully configured, and it is good to start running. So now I've got a complete job to load my Jira data and then to transform it to get my insights. So I can simply right-click on the job, and I can choose to run the job to test it to see that I get the results that I want. I can monitor the progress of my job run down here in the task history. And as this job is running, Matillion is deploying and scaling up the required infrastructure to run as many of these components as possible in parallel. This is the unlimited scalability architecture which Ed just talked you through, and this brings us massive performance gains. And the best thing about this architecture is it means that we don't have to worry about the job design. I might want to choose to design this job in a different way, and Matillion will execute it in the most efficient way, regardless of how it has been designed. I can also choose where I want the job to run. So we could choose to run the job in Matillion's SaaS interface, and this requires zero installation of infrastructure. Or, if I prefer, we could deploy in our hybrid infrastructure, or our hybrid architecture, sorry, and this will ensure that your data is not processed outside of your cloud environment. So now my job has been successfully run. So I've completed my task with my Jira data. And what I want to be able to do now is commit that up to my source control system. So as Ed was saying, all of the projects and jobs in Matillion have been built with version control at the heart of it. So I can choose to either merge the branch I'm working in back into maybe a master branch, or I can click through to commit, and I can commit this branch back up to my repo. So I can add in my commit message. I click through to commit, and then I can see that that commit has been successful. So now, jumping through into GitHub, which is my version control system of choice, I want to show you how you can automate the deployment of that pipeline out to my production environment. First of all, here you can see I'm working in the main branch, which was the same branch I was working in my pipeline designer. And I can click through into my jobs folder, and here you can see I've got all of the jobs that I had in the pipeline designer. I can choose to edit, view, or version control the jobs directly in Git. And now I'm going to use GitHub Actions to demonstrate how I can use flexibility with my DataOps process to control the deployment. So here we've got a build process which has been built. What it does is it takes the committed version of my job directly from the designer as it's been committed up to Git. And then using Matillion's APIs, it can build, schedule, and deploy my pipeline. So I've shown you there that we can combine Git and Matillion to give you the freedom to manage your DataOps or your CI/CD process as you wish. And then finally, I just want to jump you through and show you our project menu and our SaaS interface. So here you can see we have a list of projects that my team has been working on. I was working on the engineering analysis project to measure my engineering efficiency with my Jira data. And here you can see we've got Git at the heart of everything, and these are all of the branches that my team is working on. So each of my data engineers can work in isolation on their own Git branch, and when they have completed their development, they can merge the branch back up to the master. And we've got an example branch there where we are importing Jira Epic data out into Snowflake. And finally, I can click back into the main branch that I was on before, and it will take you back into the Pipeline Designer tool. So there, I've shown you how you can design a pipeline. You can commit the job up to the source control, and then we used GitHub Actions to deploy the pipeline out to the production environment. And all of this was done to analyze my Jira ticket data. Ed?
Laura, brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah, round of applause. And a live demo. So, oh, hang on. It's not the
Just click through again.
Oh, there we go. Guys, thank you very much. So hopefully that's a good introduction to the Data Productivity Cloud. We're currently in private preview for the Data Productivity Cloud, so you can scan the QR code there and join our private preview with our other customers. Of course, you can come over to our booth, which is just around the corner to the right, booth 3345. We look forward to continuing the conversation over there. Thank you very much.